Hello, and welcome to Thinking Out Loud. I'm your co-host, Cameron McAllister.
And I'm your co-host, Nathan Rittenhouse.
I almost forgot my name, Nathan.
It sounded like that.
You
stuttered a little there. Yeah.
The pause, yes. So new year, new me.
New name.
Just kidding. Yeah, but yeah, so here we are once again, cusp of a new year. I'm getting older now, so these things happen faster. The rate of acceleration is dizzying for me at this point. But of course, right. But inevitably, of course, we're all going to be talking about the same thing right now. We're going to be talking about New Year, New Year's resolutions. I'll tell you on my end, the first sign of a new year is when the gym fills up with newbies and all the equipment's tied up with people who are on their phones looking at workouts or trying to figure out how the machine works. And those of us who are regulars are really nice and welcoming and kind and say, "Oh, can I help you?" No, that's the attitude I'm going to go for. I'm going to try to do that. Think, "Oh no, good for these people." But the truth is, within a month, they're all going to be. Most of them are going to be gone. But there you have it. And that in that little example I just gave you is a picture of resolutions. Nathan, we've talked about this before, but it's always amusing to me. How do you feel about New Year's resolutions? When somebody says, "Oh, it's a new year, I'm so excited. I have a list of resolutions." What goes through your mind when such a fellow says this to you?
Well, I'm wondering if we aren't edging past that as a posture, in the sense that I think there's a worst case scenario, which is that we're all embracing the fact that nobody actually keeps resolutions. And it's now a thing of mockery, because to make a vow or a resolution is a really good thing and is a clear biblical idea. And to say, "I'm going to do this," and then to follow through with it, is one of the true markers of a mature human. So I think that when somebody says, "I resolve to," that is a good thing and should be encouraged and cheered for. You didn't think I was going to say that, did you, Cameron?
No, I didn't.
However, okay, but am I wrong? I mean, is it not right to make a conscious decision of saying, "Here's a change that needs to be made," or "Here's something that would be better, and I'm going to commit myself to doing it"? Lay aside the improbability of pulling that off, but let's just say, is that not a good?
Yes. Well, I think people who know me would assume that I would roll my eyes at New Year's resolutions, but I don't. I think there's something noble behind them. Now, do most people follow through with them? Of course not. No, we all know that. Is there a growing cynicism about New Year's resolutions? Yeah, you're probably right about that. It also, that gels well with the general trend of most people not wanting to be tied down with obligations. And it used to be that people would but it used to be, though, Nathan, people would recognize, I really should, I ought to do this stuff. I ought to look at my phone less, for instance, and I ought to eat better. I ought to, be more intentional with my kids, or talk to my mom and dad more. People would recognize that. But now we got this therapeutic language. I mean, we've had it for a while, but now you're seeing it used more, where people will say, "Well, no, you know what? No, this year I need to prioritize myself." Have you heard that one?
No, well, yeah, it kind of goes in self-care. I will get a
self-care thing.
Rolling my balls.
It's that. Yeah, I need to prioritize myself. I need to prioritize my own needs. So, yeah, I could drink less this year, but also, darn it, life's hard, and there's nothing wrong with the occasional indulgence. And I'm seeing more and more of that lately. Okay, so that would be, yeah.
So here, so since I started putting like a high moral spiritual value on making resolutions, let me try to play into this, because in the wisdom of Grandpa, one of the things that he has always pointed out to me is that a focus on spiritual disciplines can be masquerading as a focus on self. It's just another kind of self-help thing. It's another kind of self-optimization.
You're improving yourself. Yeah.
You're improving yourself. And so hear that for what it is, wherever that hits you as you're listening. But so here's the challenge for me, Cameron. And I haven't heard many other people say this, but I'm actually very good at New Year's resolutions. In fact, too good. To the degree that I don't make them. I'll give you examples. So this drove people in my family nuts. Like I specifically remember in high school, I would make these really weird resolutions, and then my family would try to figure out what my resolution was. There was if you want to talk about how ridiculous this got, there was a year so I don't know how your family operates or your household that you grew up in, but maybe you have a variety in your cereal bowls. We had cereal bowls that were different colors. I made a New Year's resolution one time that I would only eat cereal out of blue cereal bowls. and ate my breakfast out of a blue. And if there wasn't a clean one, I would get it out of the dishwasher and wash it and eat and then halfway through the year, somebody's like, "You're only eating out of blue cereal bowls this year, right?" Yeah. But so on one hand, okay, that some psychologist
you just turned it into a game.
Yeah, I turned it into a game. Yeah, of can I do this thing? Here's another one. I was just doing some quick math. On a New Year's Eve one time, this is a New Year's Eve party at our church. I said to one of the ladies at church, I drank a Pepsi, and I said, "I'm going to see how long I can go without drinking a carbonated beverage." That was 22 years ago.
I was going to say, how long? Yeah, have you since your last Coke, Nathan?
New Year's Eve when I was 17, I was like, I'm going to see how long it takes my mind to switch to brushing my teeth with my left hand. I've been brushing my teeth with my left hand for 21 years. But I brush my kids' teeth with my right hand, so I don't know if that. But anyway, so one of the things.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. So one of the things that so for me, it's this idea of practicing self-control and can I commit to something, and those are very innocuous attempts at doing something. But for me, I did find moral training value in picking something small and saying I'm going to do this one thing for a year. And so you can see if that's my personality type, why it's a really bad idea for me to make a grandiose resolution.
I shudder to think.
So anyway, I don't know what we're going to do that. This is turned into confession time with Nathan and his inner workings and weirdness. But so all of this, making a goal is a great thing. Making a resolution, making a vow or a covenant. Okay, what color cereal bowl you eat out of, really not inconsequential, other than if you say to yourself, "I'm going to do it," you should probably do it. You get married, you get baptized, that's a whole different level of covenant and vow and seriousness to it. But I think there is something admirable about at the beginning of the year saying, "I'm going to do this one thing, and then I'm going to stick with it." You have to be realistic about whether or not you can actually do that thing, if you actually want to accept the consequences of having to do that thing. And what kind of person you will become if you do accomplish that thing. It's worth counting the cost. Jesus is big on this, right? About counting the cost. We get that idea from him of think this through before you make a commitment to something. All of that is good. And yes, I'm with you at rolling my eyes on all of the New Year's resolutions that you're going to see. I think if you're going to have a New Year's resolution, you should probably start it on December 1st and see if you can keep it up through the holidays, or maybe start it the week before Thanksgiving. See if you can run it to the end of the year. It would be more impressive to keep a New Year's resolution from November 15th to January 1st than it would be to keep it for the next year, I think. So I'm not at all opposed to the idea of committing to things. I think being realistic about what you can actually do, if you're willing to suffer to make it happen. And then what is the real question, Cameron, is what is the degree to which I hold myself accountable to the things that I commit to doing? And that's a thornier issue, because that is something that I see lacking in the world around me. If somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I'll be there. Yes, I will do that. I will make that happen." The percentage of the time in which people are following through on that, or saying, "You know what? I really don't feel like going and doing that, but I said I was going to be there, and so I'm going to go," not because they wouldn't care if I didn't come, but because I committed to myself that I was going to go. So I think there's a lot of room here for holding ourselves to a standard with a vision. So you're laughing about all the people coming into the gym, but you are extremely disciplined, and you have a routine, and you have specific goals, and you train for those. I wish I had recorded Cameron's hilarious breakdown of going to the office party equivalent with a bunch of super healthy gym people. Let me guess, you had a bunch of rice and chicken, and he's and broccoli. Woo, that's a hopping party there, man. But so I'm saying how do you parse out the fact that there are people who are trying to make like a new commitment to something, which is something to which you actually are committed?
Yeah, it's going to depend on. I mean, what you said earlier is hugely important. One thing that I've noticed a lot of spiritual leaders and also non-Christians, but very disciplined people will say is, how about begin with doing what you say you're going to do, following through, and
Yeah.
pointing out that most people have the best of intentions, but will say they're going to do something and then don't follow through on it. And so starting there, but yeah, I guess a New Year's resolution is sort of a flimsy place to begin. It seems to me with a serious commitment, because it's a little bit gimmicky, and it just is sort of resting on shaky ground. I mean, what you said earlier kind of cut to the heart of it. All right, well then why wait till New Year's? I mean, if you really want to make a serious resolution, just go ahead and start right now, because that gets to the heart of, well, I will tomorrow. I'm going to start this new diet. Well, diet's not such a great word now anymore. People don't like it. So, well, tomorrow I'm going to start eating healthy. Tomorrow I'm going to start running. Tomorrow, yeah. Well, always tomorrow. Well, why not today?
Procrastinators
Well,
unite tomorrow.
yeah, exactly. So if there's a real commitment to some form of discipline, but then here's the other side. Grandpa Rittenhouse is right. So many of these disciplines, the motivations behind them do matter. For some people, the gym is not a good place. For some people, physical health, physical fitness itself can be a very disastrous thing. It depends on what your motivations are for this. I mean, do you want to be able to play with your kid and, toss them in the air when you're at the swimming pool? That's one reason. Or do you want to be an object of desire to other people? I mean, that's a huge motivation for a lot of people's discipline in the gym.
Beat people
It's
up.
not. It's
I'm safe if I'm
yeah.
stronger.
Oh yeah. Or to be stronger. I mean, well, yeah, power in some sense. Now, power's not always bad. Virtue is power. How often? I mean, you can point that out often. I mean, the ability to, if you're a person with self-control, you're an immensely powerful person, because you also have something that's quite rare in our culture right now, our culture of excess and self-indulgence. If you just look at our obesity rates, it paints a picture not just of overeating, but just of excess and a lack of self-control. If you're a person who's capable of focus and self-control, you could be the scrawniest person on the planet. You're unbelievably strong. You're stronger than most people in this country. Okay. But what you do with that strength matters. What the motivations are behind it matter as well. Even so, the spiritual disciplines, many of them can hone you into an incredibly powerful person, but not in the best sense. I mean, the Pharisees and religious leaders of Jesus' day were people of tremendous discipline. I had one professor who pointed out that some of these people would have had essentially the entirety of the Old Testament memorized. I mean, that's amazing. It's an amazing skill. Now, but they were wielding this as a form of power over others, to hurt other people and to dominate. So so discipline is not necessarily a neutral thing. It can be good, but I think the motivations behind it. I've just muddied the water and I've taken us way away from what we were talking about. But the motivations matter here too.
Well, so let's think of it like this. One of the most repeated phrases in the New Testament of the things that you are to practice is self-control. It'll be like the old women should teach the younger women. The older men should teach the young men. The young men should have this. The older men, like pursuing self-control, deeply biblical theme. However, self-control is also part of the fruit of the Spirit, which is very weird. And I can't take credit for this. Grandpa was telling me about this one time. He's like, why is self-control part of the fruit of the Spirit? You would think spirit control is part of the fruit of the Spirit. But self-control being part of the fruit of the Spirit, you have to chew on that one for a little bit. But that goes back to, Cameron, what is the motivation here? Of why, like what is the original what is the first mover in your motivation for the new fruit that you want to see be born in your life? And so I think if it is a thing that is of God, and it's like you're being convicted by the Spirit of God to do something and to lean into a certain category of growth, there is nothing silly about that. That is all virtuous, glorious, and good. It's part of the fruit of the Spirit as you lean into that. I would say, Cameron, one of the things that, and some of this is just like a little basic anthropology is helpful here too, is that you know that the first 30 days or whatever it is of any new discipline is going to be very hard. It's extremely difficult to do a resolution on your own without a community,
Mhm.
without people gathering around you who are also pursuing the same thing. It's hard to do it without clear goals. All of that is true. But when it comes back around to the spiritual side, the challenge is that there are multiple spiritual, like, okay, so say you and I want to go work out. You're going to be predisposed to lifting weights because you can like bench press my body weight a cajillion times. I'm going to be predisposed to running
Where you will
because
murder me.
I
Many
can't
times
remember a
over.
time in my life ever running a mile in more than 8 minutes, even if I haven't run for a year. And
Yeah.
just like that's my default jog speed. I am made to go faster than that. You are made to lift things bigger than that. So if we want to say Nathan and Cameron are going to exercise, I'm going to go toward running and you're going to go toward lifting. However, the same thing happens, I think, for people spiritually, particularly if you're involved in the apologetics world. You're going to have um, natural maybe giftings or disciplines that are easy for you. And the difficulty is that we tend to specialize in the spiritual discipline that is the easiest for us, and then act like spiritual disciplines are easy.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
and
absolutely true.
and that like so that's a heavier point there. That I mean, you should jot that down in your journal and think through that. Of am I practicing the spiritual disciplines that are the easiest for me? For me, that's
Mhm.
certainly the case. Um,
Same.
and
Yep.
so I'm going to have community and help, and like I'm not going to accidentally be resolved to do something and grow in a certain way. I gotta think through that and work on that. So that being said, Cameron, I think for me as I get older is that it's a new year, but a new year does not demand a new resolution. It can be an old resolution that I'm renewing.
Yeah.
And
No,
and
that's a
and
healthy
so
way to look at it.
if you have a it is helpful to have like breaks in your years. That's why holidays are important for that. Um, the end of the fiscal year, maybe like you're balancing your budget, all your receipts, you're getting ready for your taxes. There's like a clean break and a fresh start, and there is something new and exciting about that. But I think I'm thinking as we're having this conversation that actually thinking back on some old resolutions and renewing and reviving. I'm not talking about cereal bowls here either. More serious things of like stuff that I want to be better at. That this isn't a bad time of the year to join a new group or to start a new club or to get on the same reading program as somebody else so you have accountability. This would be a fine time to do that, I think. But it might be the revival and the renewal of something old in the new year, not something new in a new year.
Yeah. I think that's helpful for that sake. The sense of continuity. And also, I mean, I find that, back to your running picture, one of the hallmarks of the Christian journey and way of life is you need endurance. I mean, there's a reason why Paul, the apostle, comes back to uses running several times to illustrate this. These various forms of athletics, but to build up that endurance. And so, yeah, I think sometimes resolutions can be a reflection of the restlessness around us. When we try to think of something new every year, and we've got some new major project that we're building toward. Again, not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but yeah, to borrow Nietzsche's phrase, which would really annoy him, being put to this use, but Eugene Peterson did it first, but a long obedience in the same direction. So there's nothing wrong with that. That can be quite a liberating thought as well. But also, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I want to say something else as you're talking about the liberating thought there is I think there are people who, um, let's take So you and I were together for a training several years ago on fasting. I don't know if you remember this or not. And there's a lot of wisdom that was portrayed in that session. And one of them is that I recognize is that people usually try to bite off more than they can actually chew. And the image of this that pops into my mind, I was in London one time with a friend. The London Marathon was happening, and he's like, "Oh, this is awesome! Next year, I'm going to run this race." I'm like, "Dude, I don't know for sure that he had ever run a mile in his life." So should he start running? I think so, but maybe like small town 5K is a good goal rather than the London Marathon. You know what I'm saying there? Like that's a pretty big, So I think setting a realistic of maybe you want to say in 4 years, I want to be able to do this. And so next year I want to, run a 5K and the next year 10K and then a half, whatever. So ease into it that way. But, so that's one is like, you don't have to eat the whole hog in one sitting. So maybe make a resolution or a commitment. That's a part of something. The other thing is, Cameron, I think part of the reason that people tend toward the physical attributes of resolutions is it is the easiest. Not saying that it's easy, but it is easier than moral or virtuous growth and reform, or technology use, or addictions. It's going to be very hard on New Year's Eve to say next year I'm not going to be addicted to fill in the blank. Like that's naive outside of a miracle of God for that to happen. But I do think there are ways in which we can make strategic commitments that have benefits in other categories of life, which I think goes back to the long history biblically of fasting, is that there's an idea that if you are practicing self-control in one category, that self-control does jump. It does seem to. I don't have any research on this. This just seems to be anecdotal in what I think scripture is suggesting at, but that practicing self-control in one category does jump disciplines as a good thing. And so if you have I'm just throwing this out there as a thought experiment. If you have a porn addiction, are there other ways in your life that you can practice self-control? It's the Karate Kid, right? Wax on, wax off, right? He's cleaning the car and he's developing the muscle memory that actually expresses itself someplace else. And so there are things that I think need to be attacked head on and taken out in the yard and burned or shot. But there are also patterns of our lives of muscle memory and self-control in the way that we treat other people or speak that it might be worth thinking about. Are there other ways here that I could practice some features in my life that would be steps in a healthy direction of helping me overcome some of these larger goals and not feel like I have to nail it all on January 2nd.
Yeah, I think that's a helpful concluding note, actually. This has been a little bit of a shorter episode for us. We're usually so long-winded, but look at us. Hey, a resolution would be shorter episode. Not going to happen.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, not going to happen. Nathan just said, set realistic goals. So yeah, duly noted. But thank you for
Happy New Year, everybody.
Ever. Yeah, Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us for this. I like this. This was a little bit more lighthearted, which also another resolution. We're going to be more lighthearted in 2020. Not. We know us. You know us, and we know us, and we know that you know us. So no, not going to happen. But thank you so much for joining in. Happy New Year. You've been listening to Thinking Out Loud, a podcast where we think out loud about current events and Christian hope.
Thanks for listening to Thinking Out Loud. If you'd like to learn more about what we do, book Nathan or Cameron, or if you'd like to support us financially, whether through a one-time donation or on a monthly basis, you can do so on the donate page at www.toltogether.com. That's toltogether.com. And please consider leaving us a 5-star rating and sharing this content with your friends. It really does help.